There you are. Okay, let's see. Is everybody here? Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? Okay. Sometimes you can and sometimes you can't. So I haven't quite figured that out yet. Well, this is lesson 2. This is about our spiritual relationship. Do you remember what you were doing when you realized that everything around you has been made by something greater than man himself? There probably was a time when you thought that, but it's probably so far back that you can't remember. But I remember I was about 11 years old when we moved to Colorado. And my parents, my mom, loved to go into the mountains every weekend. And so one time, when one of the first few times when we did that, she just casually mentioned about how beautiful the mountains were. And I had really never heard that word beautiful applied to nature because I knew that sculptures were beautiful and paintings were beautiful and they had been made by people. And so I thought, well, beautiful, nature's beautiful. Well, so somebody made nature. And that got to me started thinking about things. Here, Tatenkai Ohitaka says, when I was 10 years old, I looked at the land and the rivers, the sky above, and the animals around me, and could not fail to realize that they were made by some great power. All by himself, he thought that. Well, all tribes and nations at all times and in all places have had the innate basic knowledge or feeling that there is some great spiritual or mental power or person greater than mere human beings. You know, if you study what goes on in your life long enough, you'll think that there's something else going on here. Things just don't happen that in random. There's a rhyme and a reason to things. People have always felt that this power is somehow related to their own spiritual nature. Well, do you think that's true? Do you think all people kind of feel like that? Maybe not every single person in every group, but basically, people tend to think that. I think. What do you think? The Aborigines, they have their own thing, and the innate people in the Alaska, they have their own way of looking at God. And I think pretty much everybody, different cultures, not everybody in the culture, but I think different cultures have their own way of looking at things. Well, the good medicine teaches that there is a common spiritual father for all people of all nations, races, and colors. So, a common spiritual father. But everybody calls him something different. Every single culture has a different name for the Great Spirit. And I suppose but every one of us here has a different name for him. Some people call him universal intelligence or cosmic intelligence or the universe or spirit, or everybody has a different name. In fact, the name that I like best is the one with many names. I think that is the best idea. Well, thus, all people are spiritual children, brothers and sisters having the same spiritual father. So if he made everything and he made all of us, then he's got to be, we've got to have a same spiritual father, even though we call him different things. So if we are children, then we will someday grow to be adults. This is seen in all of creation. Young saplings grow into mature trees. Puppies grow into adult dogs. The offspring of all living things grow into the likeness of their parents. I can look back at my parents and I'm kind of like what they were. You know, pretty much, I look more like my sister than anybody else, but I kind of look like my parents, and I bet you do too. So then how in the world does this follow? It says, then it would follow that the children of the Great Spirit Father will grow into the same adult status that he possesses and will someday become spiritual adults in their own right. Well, I know my parents, so how in the world can this be? How can we grow into the likeness of our spiritual parents? Well, so are we just physical? Is that all we are? We're just physical beings? No, we have a spirit part and we have the physical part. So the physical part has parents and the spiritual part has parents. So we're growing into that adulthood that our Great Spirit Father has. I mean, it's going to take us eons. It's not going to happen today or this lifetime, but we're going in that direction. And will someday become spiritual adults in our own right. That's a heavy duty thought right there. Following this way of thinking, though, the Great Spirit Father then must have been a child before he became an adult. Oh my gosh, now there's a thought. So, he grew up, we're going to grow up. Eli taught that the Great Spirit Father must have been human before he became God. And since he is perfect as compared to his children, we can say that the Great Spirit Father is a perfected man. So yeah, once we become perfected, then yeah, we probably will be kind of like that. Therefore, the most likely reason for our existence is that we are growing into this perfection. Wowie. Most of the time when I played music for churches for a long time, and I hear them talk about how we're not even the same family. We're totally something totally different, that we're purchased. I even heard that word. We're adopted, kind of. So it's like, no. If he made everything, then we've got a piece of him in us. So how can we not be part of that family? It's like, no. Well, so all truth can be found in nature, we said. In all of nature, each species carries within it a duality of genders or polarities, which act together in the reproduction of their offspring or in the germination of seeds. So everything has an active and passive principle that makes it come about. If humans have a spiritual father, then they must also have a spiritual mother. Even though the Great Spirit is a perfected being, he could not become father without a female spirit to act as mother to accomplish the miracle of creation. So what do you think? Do we have a mother? Is it just a spiritual father? If you look at the earth, every single species, you don't find a family, like the Bible says, there's the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, all of which are male. How do you have offspring if they're all male? So I think they got that wrong. I think that the Holy Spirit, I mean, who else would you call holy but your mother? That's what I think. So even though the Great Spirit is a perfected being, he could not become father without a female spirit to act as mother to accomplish the miracle of creation, because you need an active and passive principle. You need that duality. The Popol Vuh, the sacred book of the ancient Quiche Maya, say, great were the descriptions and the account of how all the sky and earth were formed, as told by the creator and maker, the mother and father of life, of all things. He who gives breath and thought, she who gives birth to the children, he who watches over the happiness of the people, the happiness of the human race, The wise man, he who meditates on the goodness of all that exists in the sky, on the earth, in the lakes, and in the sea. Boy, wouldn't that be a great guy? I'm telling you. So, you are a spiritual being, a child of this celestial family, a God in the making. And you know, it even says that in the Bible. Psalms 82:6, look it up, it's kind of interesting. Jesus says, I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. Right there in plain sight, it says that. So, as a child has part of the powers and abilities of its parents, you carry inside you a part of the power of the Great Spirit, your Father. You know, we already create, we're already creators. We just haven't figured out how to make it work right. We already have that ability because what the thoughts that we have today create our tomorrows. So we're already doing it. We just haven't figured out how to, like a little baby, you know, haven't figured out how to make all the fingers work quite right. So we get it all screwed up all the time. But we have that ability. We just have to figure out how to make it work for us. And that is definitely something that's worth meditating on. As a child has part of the powers and abilities of its parents, you carry inside you a part of the power of the Great Spirit, your Father. A mere realization of this fact will release a part of this power for your use. Someday you will grow into an adult spiritually and have all the powers of an adult. It's just part of evolution. It's something that's going to happen. You know, people think that people with psychic powers are strange and weird and oh my gosh, we got to be afraid of them. But no, it's just part of evolution. I mean, we don't like change. And so, yeah, some of that sounds like, but no, that's part of what we're doing here. So, yeah, a mere realization of this fact will release a part of this power for your use. Can you figure out why that is? By just realizing that we have, because you've been given a ceiling, you know, you've been told you're only going to go this far, and then you have to beg for forgiveness in order to get past that. No, no, you don't. We're just growing into that. It's a mere realization of this fact will release a part of this power for your use. Because we've raised the bar. You know, we're no longer limited. Now we have, oh my gosh, we can grow into the same power that the Great Spirit Father has. We have unlimited ability. We just have to figure out how to do it. It's like we're you know, we can't learn how to walk yet. We're still learning how to crawl. But we'll get there. No one can stop your progress. You will be like your spiritual father, the great spirit chief of the spirit world, a creator in your own right. So there you are. Do you think anyone can stop your progress? No. Well, you can slow it down. You can sure take side trips. And that's okay. You know, they say we have free will, so we can mess it up as long as we want, take all kinds of side trips, and that's okay. It just slows it down a little bit, but that's okay. So we said that that Mother Earth has her own planet. Well, what about the other planets in our Great Spirit Father's solar system? What about these worlds? Well, Eli taught that there are 3 basic types of planets or worlds in our solar system. There's the celestial or star-like, the terrestrial or earth-like, and telestial or distant from the sun type. And that means more distant than we are. Further out away from the sun than is the earth. So all worlds, celestial, terrestrial, and telestial, are inhabited by beings with physical bodies suited for their worlds. The sun is the celestial world in our solar system. The Great Spirit and those with sufficiently high vibrations to live there dwell in the celestial world. So if you think about spirits, they look gaseous, they're full of light, and they could probably live on the sun and not be affected by it at all. Traditional Hopi stories say that God looks through the face of the sun. From the book of the Hopi, it says, with the pristine wisdom granted them, they understood that the earth was a living entity like themselves. She was their mother. They were made from her flesh. They suckled at her breasts, for her milk was the grass upon which all animals grazed, and the corn which had been created specially to supply food for mankind. And in their wisdom, they also knew their father in two aspects. He was the sun and the solar god of their universe. Not until he first appeared to them at the time of the red light, Talawa, had they been fully firmed and formed. Yet his was but the face through which looked Taiowa, their creator. So this is saying that the sun is an entity, but the creator looks through the face of the sun. Strange. Eli taught that the sun is the body of the Great Spirit. The earth is the body for the spirit of our Holy Mother. Okute or Shooter says all living creatures and all plants derive their life from the sun. If it were not for the sun, there would be darkness and nothing could grow. The earth would be without life. Yet the sun must have the help of the earth. If the sun alone were to act upon the animals and plants, the heat would be so great that they would die. But there are clouds that bring rain, and the action of the sun and earth together supply the moisture that is needed for life. The roots of a plant go down, and the deeper they go, the more moisture they find. This is according to the laws of nature and is one of the evidences of the wisdom of Wakantanka. Rolling Thunder says the earth is a body, a gigantic body, a conscious, struggling, living being. The body belongs to a being, an individual with an identity and purpose. That being exists here now. We have to be within it, like cells. It's very important for people to realize this. The earth is a living organism. The body of a higher individual who has a will and wants to be well, who is at times less healthy or more healthy physically and mentally. So yeah. Badagi or Big Thunder says the Great Spirit is our father, but the earth is our mother. She nourishes us. That which we put into the ground, she returns to us. And healing plants, she gives us likewise. So the earth sustains us, but she would not be able to do that without the help of the sun. Here on this last page, a Winnebago saying is, Holy Mother Earth, the trees and all nature are witnesses of your thoughts and deeds. What do you think that means? The trees and all of nature are witnesses of your thoughts and deeds. What do you think that means? I don't know. I'm just asking. Melissa, what do you think?
They are also conscious beings, and they've been here much longer and mostly outlive us.
Yes, okay. Well, all things are connected. That's a good point.
Yeah.
The body of the mother comprises the terrestrial world, of course. We live on the terrestrial world. Humans dwell in this terrestrial world and have bodies which are designed for the ecology of their planet or plane of existence, being lower in vibration than those spirits with celestial bodies. Then the celestial worlds are inhabited by beings with bodies of very low coarse vibrations as necessary for their worlds of darkness and cold. Although these beings may indeed live in our terrestrial world in the form of rocks and crystals, for example, Only they can live on the worlds that are at the greatest distance from the sun. So, what kind of beings would live on like Pluto and Neptune? So, we'd have gaseous beings, probably, maybe crystals. I think Jupiter is mostly liquid, isn't it? Just it's all gashy liquid stuff. So yeah, all these worlds are have very different because the chemical world is so different from ours, and the electronic world is so different from ours. These worlds would have way different stuff. Okay, so how do the Indians regard the supreme spiritual power? Do they feel it's related to us? Are we related? Does the Indian feel like we're related? Yes, sure does. And so the relationship to the Great Spirit Father is he's our father. And we're his children. We're all his children. And what is the most likely reason for our existence? Why are we here? Big question, boy. Why are we here? What do you think, Christy? Why are we here? Sum it up in 5 words or less.
Been asking myself that a lot lately. Um, I think we're just here to experience life.
Okay, yes, I would say that's a good description. So what is our relationship to the Great Spirit Father? Oh, we said that. Okay. And the evidence in nature for humans to observe and thereby understand their spiritual relationship to the Great Father. What evidence is there? Well, the sun supplies what is needed for the earth to be able to supply our food and air and rain. So the earth the earth will make it happen, but the Father gives her the energy to do that. There would not be any life on earth without the sun. So if a person has a spiritual father, do they also have a spiritual mother? Yeah, so we have both. There's a duality in all things. Is there anything that could stop you from someday gaining spiritual maturity? Not really. I think even criminals would have to learn something. I mean, I don't think you could get through a whole life without learning something. Realizing that you will someday gain spiritual maturity and be like your creator releases creative energy for your use. Why do you think that is so? Lindy, why do you think? Realizing that you will someday gain spiritual maturity releases some creative energy for your use. So why do you think that is?
Well, I think the Great Father wants us to grow. And so the Great Father and the Great Mother together are helping us to reach that higher stage.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. So what are the 3 basic types of planets or worlds in our solar system? Let's see. Armor, are you there? Amor, is that how you pronounce it?
More, yes. Celestial, terrestrial, and wait,
Yes.
celestial, telestial,
And terrestrial. You said that.
terrestrial.
Oh, yeah. Yes. And so what are they? Can you give me an example of each kind?
Um, Celestial being further away from the sun than us, correct?
The telestial are yes, further away.
Okay.
So
So,
those would be like Jupiter and Saturn and those kind of guys.
oh,
Okay, so what is a terrestrial world in our solar system? Let's see, Chris, you want to help her out?
Well, the Earth is a terrestrial planet.
Yes, the Earth is the terrestrial. And then what is the celestial world in our solar system? Chris, I'm going to keep on doing that one.
The celestial is the heavens, the stars, the planets that we can see, things like that.
Well, in our solar system, it's the sun is our celestial world. Because our solar system is just the sun and the planets that revolve around it. That's it. The universe is too big to include everything. So we're just going to talk about us. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so which of the beings on the three different worlds do you think are the children of the Holy Mother and the Great Spirit Father? Lattimore, you want to try that one? Gee, he's in his car. That's probably a hard thing for him to do. How about Sue? You want to try that one?
I'm here. I got you.
Okay.
This is Lattimore. Which of the beings on the three different worlds do you think are the children? Well, I think you said that there are beings on all of the worlds that just have a body that's appropriate for the world that they're on.
Yes. So do they all belong to are they all children of the Holy Mother and Great Spirit Father?
I would believe so.
Yes, there are. That's right. Absolutely. Because everything in this solar system was created by our spiritual father and mother. So yep, they are. Okay, so that is our spiritual relationship to the Great Spirit and the Holy Earth Mother, and the worlds that contain all of our brothers and sisters. When they say we're all related, that's what they're talking about. The rest of the family. So next time, what are we talking about? Oh, we're going to talk about the circle. The circle is a spiritual concept that involves a tree of life. And so we're going to talk about how the circle is like the tree of life next time.
Will you be sending out files for us to print for that as well?
Yes, every week I send out.
Okay.
Here.
Thank you.
Did you? Now I don't always send out the. What I usually do is, I guess I'll have to try to do that for you. Try to send your, because you can't get it through your messenger, Lattimore.
Oh, I was able to figure out how to make it work, so that's fine.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. I just normally don't look at Facebook on my computer. It's mostly on my phone. So I got it worked out, so I can do it.
Oh, good. Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, do you have any other questions about our spiritual relationship? What do you think about that? Have you ever thought about that we have a spiritual mom and dad? That was a new idea for me. I'd always thought, well, yes, we have an earth mother, and yes, we have a spiritual father, but I never thought of them as being a couple, working together. I just thought, wow, that's a different idea. Let's see.
I
What
feel like that's as good as we can get with our human understanding of everything, you know? That's all that we know as humans is the mom, the dad, you know, creation and things like that. So I think that's about as close to, you know, trying to understand something that is so beyond our realm of understanding. So we, you know, we just apply things to it that help us grasp.
Right, and they are so much more than we are. But the basic idea is starts from the family, because everything on earth has a family. I mean, even trees have families. So, flowers and they all have a family, and so it's the same blueprint. It's just bigger.
And so much bigger once we found out about underneath trees, you know, with the mycelium
Oh,
and, you know, the connections underground that we had no idea about until, you know, it came time for us to learn. And science allowed us to learn that they communicate and talk underground. And it's just beautiful. It's the whole connection.
isn't that something? They say, what is it? The aspen, is it the aspen that is the largest single entity in the world? Is it the aspen? I think it's the aspen because they're all connected. It's all one root. It's the root that comes up and makes all the trees. Yes.
I'm curious to ask, does anyone go out there and talk to their nature family?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yes, you should go and watch the difference in what happens to your thoughts when you're out in nature and as opposed to when you're in a building. Because it's you just even if you're in a bad mood, and you take your bad thoughts outside and you go for a walk, and pretty soon you're thinking about something else. So it's like nature talks to us too. It doesn't use words, it uses pictures and it uses feelings and it uses, other things. But it's always communicating with us.
Mhm.
So that's nice. Can you guys read all these little messenger notes?
Mhm.
Yes, yeah.
It's nice.
Wow. 400 plus year old. That is wonderful. That is wonderful.
Yeah, those old trees have a lot of memory. Those great big trees are the ones that are the most fascinating to sit around, sit near, sit under, just because they just give you the weirdest thoughts. They give you all kinds of interesting ideas. So yes, go out in nature. The older the trees, the better. Okay, and next time we'll talk about how the circle is the flowering tree. Okay, so I will see you guys next time. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next time.
You have a good night.